Thank you. We're doing the old switcheroo. This is my first book, Push and Pull. Thanks. This poem is called God Bless the Calloused. And the last poem, it talks a little bit about documenting and the importance of that. And little shameless plug, something that I'm working on right now is I'm starting a rural literary press. But the theme of the first book is discarded, and it's this idea of documenting rural culture in a way that is for us and by us. And I will be accepting submissions for the first book. It'll come out early fall. So if you want to keep up with it, follow me on Instagram. It's Belle Townsend KY, because I'm a Kentucky gal. But I will be posting about the submissions, so I would love to see some of y'all's work. Okay, this is God Bless the Calloused. I come from a lineage of rural Kentucky workers who died in dangerous coal mines by profitable addiction and the rich man's wars and by their own calloused hands and guns. I come from a line of people who could not discern their exploitation from someone else's, people who will always stop for the car that is pulled over to the side of the road, but participate in a culture curated by a ruling class that individualizes and disconnects the marginalized. I come from a state where 10 of our counties are the top 25 poorest in the nation. I come from a state that forgets its own history, or a state that has its own history rewritten in a regulated curriculum. My home is a convenient scapegoat, and our people are easy targets who are impossible to defend. There's a trailer that I pass on the drive to my parents' house in Roberts, and obstructing the dance of the overgrown weeds is a Trump sign. Last summer, another sign went up next to it. The sign, handily made of cardboard and black marker, said, "Extra fruits and veggies from garden. Stop by and get you some." Buckets of fruits and vegetables were overflowing, and their first thought was to give. I left their home with a bag of fresh, red, juicy tomatoes, and I could taste the care that went into their cultivation. I still have an ache the size of Kentucky in my heart from seeing those signs next to each other. How often do we contradict ourselves without ever knowing? It is impossible to defend so many people where I come from, and yet they have been left defenseless for centuries against an economic system that is relentless and cruel and created by our own hands. I saw more goodness in the bluegrass than I ever did in the blue states. I know that it is impossible to encapsulate years of class struggle in a poem, but I would rather badly defend someone than not defend them at all. I have heard that we are stupid for voting against our self-interest, and I know how hard it is to vote in my state. I have heard that we are willfully uneducated, and I have seen how our artificially low property taxes create our underfunded school system. I have heard criticism from the experts, but I have seen nothing but classism disguised as neoliberal conjecture. You cannot understand where I come from if you are not also from there. I mean that words fail and nuance exists, and the enemy is never who we are taught to hate. My community taught me that queerness was not only wrong but disgusting. The same people who taught me this were also the first people to listen when I told them who I am and why they were wrong. I only knew who I was because of media they did not have, and I was only able to talk to them because they already loved me. You see, it's different in the South, in my community. It's not awful if your niece gets an abortion. It is a quiet exception. We love so hard that we can see past anything, even our most defining moral impositions. We can excuse our own, but we cannot endorse the other doing the same. And frankly, it's all bullshit. It's all hypocritical. It's too often racist, capitalist, or patriarchal, but I have watched people change their minds because they love someone enough to do so. And that means something. You see, when you grow up with a worldview shaped by the ideas in school, work, home, and everywhere else the same, you are destined to be wrong when you go anywhere else. We cannot find conclusions on our own when premises are intentionally kept out of our reach. I come from a community that taught me how to give, how to cultivate, how to love, and how to hate. I come from a community of systematically ignorant, yet often well-meaning people. My home is full of targets, and they have been hit over and over and over. Meanwhile, the bullseyes sit in penthouses and mansions, unaffected, watching us scramble over all the arrows.